Hey all, welcome to the 23rd episode of Rambling Weekly. As you can tell by the title, it's called Three-Pronged Attack. I'll get into what that's all including and everything in the next portion. But, yeah, I'm feeling spry, feeling good, feeling ready. Let's do this. Alright there, that was Skies of a Strange Land, and like all the other songs for this episode, they're coming from the first part of Trails of Cold Steel. And I'll be upfront, not my favorite arc so far from the Trails series. I love the series, I've been a massive cheerleader for it, maybe not as openly as I could be, I guess. I could be making like my top 10 side quests and all that sort of stuff for the games, but I'm a really big fan of the style, the games, particularly older ones, and the effort that they put into making the worlds. As much as I may not like Cold Steel as much as the others, I do appreciate that they've taken the time to build up, to kind of pull the curtain back to show you the Empire in this regard. Particularly because it's built up over 5 games. Unfortunately for a lot of other people, only 2 before they got to this. But you get the Liberal Kingdom, and then you get Crossbell, the Principality of Crossbell, and then boom, you finally get the Empire. But yeah, so it's kind of wonky in that regard, because people who, just because of how they're introduced to the series, and also how they're I guess, for lack of a better, fed the story or fed the series, it's harder to kind of get the same sort of perspective. Just because, it's like I played through 5 games. I ripped through the first trilogy so I could play Zeta. Why? Because it was announced when I was there, and I was like, holy crap, it's going to be coming out and everything. I think it was I'm trying to think. I think it was 2010 or something. So I was really excited because I loved the music and everything, but I never had played the game, so I'm like, shoot, I can catch up and be a part of this. And part of it when it first released, and so I played that, and then Al came out, and I was like, yeah. And then Nayata came out, and it was just nothing but awesome. But not quite, but I mean, it was really Falcon was punching pretty hard, I thought. And so while I couldn't catch the perspective of the people who had played the first 3 games and then had to wait like 4 years before this, I at least jumped on the train then, and then blitzed through the 3, played through Zeta, and then had to wait briefly. I don't think I got to 0 out a little after, but Al came out, I think, in 2012. Could be wrong about that, but either like early 2012 or late 2011. And maybe I'm wrong, but I could have swore it was around sometime. I know it was before the alleged apocalypse was supposed to happen, but they waited for that, got that, and then beat that, and then waited for Sen finally, well, didn't wait for Sen, but waited for another one to hopefully come out soon. And a few years later, Sen came out, and then a couple years after that, Sen 2 came out. And so, like, I've been waiting for, what has it been? It's going to be 3 years, I think, or maybe 2. Maybe it came out in 2015. Whew. The years just kind of blur together when you get older, folks. But 2 to 3 years have been waiting for for Sen 3, and they just started trickling out information about it. Personally, I've not really been as big of a fan of the Trails of Cold Steel arc, but just in case, I'm kind of forgetting if I already mentioned this, but all the music will be from the first one. I had to re-record this because I dropped a bit of not a massive one, but a bit of a spoiler for Zeto and Aono-Kiseki. I was like, I should cut that out. Just in case, if for whatever reason. So I had to re-record it. I mean, it wasn't like it was that far into it, so phew. But yeah, Falcom just started dropping some information about Sen 3, and it has me very excited because it's going to be taking place in the Empire, as well as, because it's like the Erebonian Empire and Crossbell. I won't go into too much detail, even though it's in the information they mentioned, just in case you haven't finished Sen 2 or Trials of Cold Steel 2 and that sort of thing. But it takes place in both of those, and that has me giddy with anticipation. Plus, it is supposed to be 3 years after Sen 2, which I had not expected. When I finished Sen 2, I kind of figured, alright, this will probably push, maybe a couple months or something after that, and it'll be on the Western Front of the Empire, because a lot of bad stuff was going down in the game that you didn't really get to see. I was obviously wrong in that guess, which I'm greatly happy to be wrong, because I haven't liked the arc as much, and the part of that's also because I'm not a big fan of school settings. I mean, it works for scenes like it did in first chapter. Second chapter wasn't so bad either, but I didn't quite like that one nearly as much. But for like a chapter or something, it's all right, but not as a main thing in the game. It's particularly going from Zeto and Aono-Kiseki's kind of main vibe and such, and I'm not going to say any more about that because that's what got me in trouble last time. Anywho, it's the information has kind of got me a little bit excited in that regard, which hasn't quite been the case for it lately. So I figured, yeah, let's do some Sen music. Let's do some Sen music. Sen no Kiseki. Yeah. But it's all from the first game. The second game's got good music as well, so I'll probably do that in another episode. I probably have done it in another episode. Silver Mongoose was kind enough to leave comments on the episode 21 or 21st of the Info Everywhere one, and he said that lovely outro, and I was looking at the bumpers and everything, and they were like the same songs, like the exact same songs that I had used just for this past episode. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to that sort of thing. It's kind of funny though. It's like, because I had the preview between those two episodes, 21st and 22nd, it was October till now. So that also, I had a pretty, not like a terrible cold, but I had a sucky cold that kept me from really doing much of anything, which is why I've tried to drag out this portion by talking a lot about Sen no Kiseki and stuff like that. So I was a bit bunkered down with that, so I didn't get it quite as much editing as I like to do in the story. I'm very close to the end of it. I've got like 18% to go. So, but I also haven't had a chance to do more recordings for the let's play of low-level let's play of Super Mario RPG, which is I need to get on because I'm running out of episodes. So yeah, it's kind of this is go time sort of thing. But I had recorded a different episode last week, and I was all set and everything, and boy shucks howdy, and I liked it. It wasn't actually a bad episode, but I deleted it, and I deleted it because I guess going through it and everything, I think I could have probably tightened it up a bit, and that's why I sort of went this route. But also, I had recorded it, and a couple days later, I had gotten a link from a good friend of mine about the whole Jim Sterling thing. And I'm going to kind of grease the wheels, and we're going to go into the discussion part So this episode might be a little bit less, I guess, clear in its lines, but he had sent me this. I think it was for YouTube. It was the Jim Sterling video where he talked about Breath of the Wild, and then at the last portion of it, he was putting up the kind of really terrible things about his score, because he gave it a 7 out of 10, and it had dropped the Metacritic score down a percentage. And yeah, and I watched that, and I was just kind of like, he's not like hating on the game, outside of things he didn't like, of course, but opinions, subjectivity, that sort of thing. But I seen that, and then it was I also watched Johnny, Happy Console Gamer. He put up a video about just kind of like talking about scores and stuff. Scores and stuff like that. And I wanted to do an episode about it, but then I was like, well, I've got this one I already recorded about something else, and then I was like, I could probably still do that other one, because the other one is a little bit more esoteric. So maybe not quite as it kind of is. Not trying to. It's a little out there kind of thing, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just underselling myself a little bit there. But so I came up with an idea. I was like, all right, I've got an idea. This is what I'll do, and I've got the papers for it. I'm not going to go through them all or anything, but I do need these papers. But I came up with an idea, and I was like, all right, good, I've got an idea for it. And then it turned into 3. So this is where the title comes from for this episode, is that it is a three-pronged attack. So I'm going to take the whole thing, the situation, not even just Jim Sterling's situation, but just the whole spiel about crazy reactions to people's scores and opinions about things, and we're going to kind of dissect them into 3, or I guess you cut them into 3 different pieces. Dissect bisect them, because I don't only do trisect them. I'm going to cut them up and do like 3 different sort of angles for it. And they're going to be, and I'll try to keep them their own sort of portions, but it'll all be a part of the discussion sort of thing. So, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if I'm just going to bomb and fail this spectacularly or just fail it terribly. But, it was kind of what it came to be. I didn't want to do 3 different episodes all kind of around the same thing. I mean, with the ideas that I've got so far, they're all sort of interconnected in their own little magical ways, but I didn't want something that really just kind of felt like it was I would be rehashing it over and over again. Plus, I didn't want just one of them to take the main stage, because I like naming topics, and I think I did a cool one, but I just didn't want it to be one to be the focus. But then, as I'm rambling about them, or trying to talk a little bit more concise about them, they a different topic kind of overtakes it, because I think I've had that a couple times where I'm just like, meh. But so that is it. Let us do a little bumper break. I need more delicious drink, and we'll do this. Part 1. Vindictive Metacritics. What's in a score? Why do we value it so greatly? When someone goes against the grain and likes or dislikes something wildly popular or hated, an insane torrent of personal attacks flows. This sort of interaction has been around for a while, but when we attack those over something so minor... So, yes, part 1 here is of the Vindictive Metacritics. And just to throw it out there, the song that I had used there for the bumper to this one was, it is called Risking Everything, Here We Stand. So, now with that out of the way, we can kind of get back into this. So, this is something that is a bit of a problem, and I will have things up here that aren't necessarily... They are... It's kind of funny because people are... I brought it up. It came from the whole Jim Sterling thing where he gave Breath of the Wild a 7 out of 10. And there were some wildly crazy reactions to it. Now, it came out, I think, about a week, or maybe even just a few days before Breath of the Wild. But Horizon Zero Dawn came out, and they're similar games. Not necessarily exactly similar and you know, that sort of thing, but they have some similar concepts, and they got the open world sort of thing and all that sort of fun stuff. And you have both fan bases going all sorts of loop-de-loop. So, and not all of them, but you have people in both fan bases that have gone all sorts of loop-de-loop. For the case with Jim Sterling, a lot of them, and I tried to look on his website, but it seemed like he blocked or deleted a lot of the really spiteful ones. I don't blame him, but in the same hand, whoever did do that, that's a lot of work. And it was kind of upsetting because I wanted to see a bit more of it, and I should have done a little bit quicker on the gun, but that's just kind of what happens. And you know, but there in the video he did, I mean, there you can see clips of it where they're just, you know, you get people that just say, "Go kill yourself, drink bleach, blah 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 blah," and you have another group, the portion of the fan base for Horizon Zero Dawn, who have made it their purpose to give it a perfect score, but then to give Breath of the Wild a 0. And I will put up sections or pieces of it. There's I think it's Imgur that I have, that there's a lot of them. I mean, it's not like a bajillion of them, but I mean there are quite a good deal of them and everything like this. And then when you go to Metacritic, like, this is the weird thing that kind of gets to me with Metacritic and everything else, is that I'll make a point of showing this right now. So I'm writing this time down here, 340. This is what gets to me about people who review things and all that sort of fun stuff, is that when you look at something like Metacritic, let's just look at the user ones. The critic ones are going to be what they are, but the user ones, if you look at it, I mean, you're not always going to get the case, but I don't know. When you have something skewed so one way, it immediately starts to set off red flags. Part of it's because the people who wanted to play the game in the first place are playing the game, and they're enjoying it, which they are allowed to do. But this is the thing that kind of gets to me, is that it's like, okay, the cultural zeitgeist for the game is, it's an amazing masterpiece and nobody can question it whatsoever. I had this sort of a similar kind of dogfight, you know, back and forth with people when I was a kid with Ocarina of Time. I don't like the game. I still don't like the game. It is a boring game. And why do I like Twilight Princess? I explain it away with more character and just stylistic choices and everything, but it also has a damn theme worth something, right? Hyrule theme in Ocarina of Time was poop. It was poop. Poopity poop poop poop. As I drink my coffee, so I can poop later. But like that aside, like as a kid, any sort of, and this isn't really anything new. We have dealt with people who really get defensive when you call into question or have a differing opinion about something like that. I mean, it's kind of similar to like sports teams or something. I mean, if you're talking to somebody and you find out that they like a sport, and then you find out that they're a fan of something else, a lot of times your gut reaction is, you son of a bitch. Not always, but I mean, that happens a lot. And it's the same thing here with games. Like, I don't like Earthbound, and I've made that a point, and I get like, people are like, oh man, it's great, it's got humor and all this sort of thing, and they try to justify it from their point. Well, it's got all this other stuff in it, as if like I can't see that it has those same things and stuff. Like, I've played part of Earthbound and I just didn't care for it. I just got bored with it. And it's not, and the humor doesn't really jive with me. It's just one of those things that just doesn't work. But good luck trying to explain that to people, because a lot of people just kind of immediately start to dismiss you as a troll, which gets really obnoxious, especially nowadays, where it's like, well, you have this countering opinion. Well, obviously you're a troll. And I think that pendulum has swung to what we get, where we have these huge troll brigades or something, where they start to go into really, really the extremes of something. And a lot of times it's there just to elicit a reaction. I get that, but and that'll kind of go into these other portions of this discussion. But why is this? Why are people getting death threats over a score? An arbitrary, like basic bitch thing. Like, it's not even that important. Like, that's I've never really cared for the scores for a game. Like, as a kid, what was it that I cared for? As a kid, they had some sort of thing like the top 20 or whatever in Nintendo Power or something, where it had like the top 20 NES games, the top 20, and it was, I think, just a fan thing or something, and I don't even remember how the hell they did it. I was just like, But, I mean, I never really paid attention to the scores and stuff, because it just doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, you can give a score, but in the same hand, I think part of the crossed wire comes from, well, a 70 is a D or a C, depending on some grading scales. Mine, I think when I was in high school, a 70% would get you a D+. But it's just like, well, that's a D, that's not very good. And it's like, that's not, I don't think that's quite the metric they're going with, where it's like 5 is an average, and then 1 is horrific, and then 10 is masterpiece, whatever. And you see like so many 10s and stuff out there. It's like when you have so many 10s, eventually it's just going to be nothing, because you have people trying to hype up the kind of stuff, and then you've got to raise it beyond. This is why you get SS grades and stuff in Japanese games, because they can't stick to a damn A. It's got to go better, go beyond. It's an S, it's a double S, it's a triple S, it's and so anywho, I have a really difficult time trying to understand, and I have gotten upset with the high scores of certain Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy V. And I remember trying to write a review for the game on GameFAQs, Game FAQs, and it not getting accepted. And I wonder if it had to do with me saying that the music felt like an Abuo was in a coma and they would pour water in his mouth, and whatever kind of like gasping for air sounds he would make, that was the tunes it came up with. Probably did not endear me to whoever was reviewing that. But you look at it and you just see like all these like 9 out of 10s or 10 out of 10s for Final Fantasy V, which I think is like one of the worst games in the series. But it's an opinion. But I'm not going to say those other people, they should die for it or anything like that. That's their own kind of thing. And I get, trying to be reasonable here. Can't be reasonable on the internet. That seems to get us nowhere anywhere anymore, it feels like. But it's just... And it's not just games. I mean, you got it with movies and everything. We have this wildly disproportional reaction to how people rank something, and it's weird. Why is it? Why in a day and age when you were supposed to be yourself, make your own identity, forge your own future, that we chain ourselves to what the hell the whims of some other person that you've probably never met give a score on. I love you, Johnny, but and this is what he's usually good about. He doesn't do scores. He's had a few of them, and he even explains it in his video that he doesn't usually like to do scores because it leads to people starting to go crazy with it, which is how I feel. You shouldn't be doing scores because they don't mean anything. And if you listen to everything that's kind of like I compared, I know I did with whatchamacallit, I can't even think of the games. Last Story and Xenoblade. I compared the two, and I graded them against each other, and people didn't like that. And I get that makes it easier for them to have a discussion. But when somebody points out something, if I like and list 5 things, and then I dislike and list a couple things, and it ends up, you can't just say, well, it's a 5 out of 7 there, so it's fantastic, perfect. But it just, I think it's 4 out of 7. Well, anywho, I might have totally botched that. Don't pay attention to me or anything like that. But it's like, I just don't get it. It is like in the sense of people who go about like this and purposely try to like are just like I said at the open part, is just being vindictive is what it feels like. It's like as if somebody has betrayed them because somebody else, or groups of people like this other game more than something else, and it's like why are we doing this? Why are we putting these little faux pins and badges on us to try to like fight for this game or this movie or this TV series or something? I don't like what's the Big Bang Theory. I have no interest in it whatsoever. Evidently it's a really popular comedy. Couldn't have told me that from hearing some of the episodes, but my brother really likes it. He's 17. He's allowed to have his own opinions about things. As long as your opinions aren't, directed at trying to hurt people, I think, we can get along. But it's just not a very good thing, obviously. But it's just like it does. There are some really bad repercussions from this sort of stuff, and when you have groups of people who are wildly acting out because of somebody's score, you start to get people who start to kind of grow quiet, and it's like, why even talk if and not everybody, of course, but you're gonna get people who are like, why even start to discuss anything if all I'm going to get is these sorts of issues. And we'll stop it there. And it will go right into the next part. There's not going to be a bump or anything, but it leads right into my next part. So, yeah. Squeaky chair. Part 2. Hollow Hill to Die On. When attacks come from all sides for an unpopular opinion for game, movie, show, etc., should we fight those battles to defend every inch of ground, shift gears to another topic entirely, or cave in to the pressure? More importantly, why? Why do people feel the need to so ardently defend what they like at the cost of looking like a troll? When we engage, we die on a hollow hill. So, why talk at all? And that to me is the one of the dangerous things of this whole problem that we face of not really, and I get it, you know, there's going to be a section of these people that are just doing it to kind of entertain themselves. I get that, but it can't be everybody, right? Right? Maybe I've fallen into the trap of thinking that it wasn't everybody when it in fact is everybody. I can't see that being the case because of, maybe not to the same extreme as a kid, because they whatever, but it's similar sentiments of, you know, voicing my opinion that I didn't think Ocarina was a good game, and then getting shot back of it's super duper and you're wrong, blah 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 blah, or you know, the typical you're an idiot, very dismissive sorts of reactions. And it's just like, even if somebody explains why they have that opinion, much like the Sterling case, he gave his reasons for it. I mean, he certainly is biased in that he doesn't like weapons breaking, which is fine. I mean, but he explicitly says that, though he kind of tries to be joking about how there's a scientific reason for it and whatnot. But he explicitly says he's not a big fan of it and all this sort of stuff, and then promptly lays into it because he has set the ground for why he doesn't like it. I mean, that's what gets to me more than anything, is like, he can't engage any of them about it because none of them are engaging anything that he had to say. And this is a epidemic problem with like, not even just gaming and stuff in general, just anything in general, it seems nowadays, where instead of listening to any sort of thing going on, it's just, well, you think this way, so you are wrong, and I will show you by losing my voice. Ooh, time out. Okay. Okay. Now that I nearly about died. Okay. Alright, okay, great. Now that I lost my voice there for a second, and I've caught back into this, well, I mean, it's just, instead of engaging the thoughts and stuff, it just turns into attack the other person because they have different opinions about something. I mean, you see this on the political field. Yeah, you see it in sports. I've had ridiculous arguments with my uncle about some sports things, where he was trying to take stats for something without any sort of context and present them to me like that is a definitive proof of what his opinion, what his stance was. And I was like, you can't take that without giving me any sort of context. You're not giving me any sort of context for anything. And he just wouldn't let it go in that regard. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, screw you, Uncle, no, screw you, Taylor. I mean, it was just a kind of like that kind of where you just go, yep, not even really going to pay attention to this because you're not providing me any sort of context. So, because context is key, and that's what kind of gets to me when it comes to this sort of thing, is that you got the adage, don't feed the trolls. And that really seems to be the way to combat that sort of issues. You don't give them entertainment. And I'm going to bring up a quote because I thought it was very telling how people react and whatnot. And this is actually something that came from Jim's site. And there's a back and forth, but the back part of the back and forth was deleted, so I only got this one. But this is very, very telling, and yeah. And so you get into, when you have this kind of thing going on, you really, if you do choose to engage them, you are dying on a hollow hill, because you're not getting anything out of it. You're trying to stand on your position, but it's being hollowed out by somebody who's not even going after it. They're just attacking your conclusion of your opinion without giving a rat's ass for the context behind it. And so this back and forth eventually culminates to this point, and then there's a couple back and forths afterwards, but it's not really much of anything. So here we go. And I quote, not bad. I've still dealt with worse, but alright, I'll show you. See, the thing is, I see someone like you, and I want to pity you, but I can't even be bothered to do that much. You are such a fucking waste of human life and precious resources that to pity you would be to justify your existence in some means, and I simply cannot do that. You are among the laziest, least original, squirming bitch of a feces-born maggot that I have encountered. It's like all you can do is repeat what pathetic regurgitated attempt at insults that you've read from whatever worthless subreddit for the sad nihilistic stains of excrement on the hospital gown of a newly dead elderly. You call me miserable, but the irony is you continue to fall for my provocations. Something I enjoy. I'm using you for my personal entertainment, and whether you know it or not, you follow along. See, the thing is, calling someone a miserable fuck only works when they actually are a miserable fuck. So your words mean nothing to me, partly because I'm fairly content with things, though with some grievances, and partly because I see you as essentially no better than cum-soaked sock rotting in a dumpster behind some fast food chain, say KFC, a squiggling child born dumb and underdeveloped whose best option would be to crawl back into the anus from which you were birthed and suffocate. So, why don't you get your hand off your blistered flaccid dick, place your fingers back on your keyboard, and try again, child? Or you can just back off, and I'll simply forget you ever exist, since you're neither worth remembering nor memorable enough anyhow, and gravitate towards some other poor fool. Either way, you'll just be doing what I want in the end, only to be forgotten, much like I imagine your end as you shuffle off this mortal coil. Forgotten. What is going on there? So I don't know the exact back and forth about it, but that is the same kind of mentality you get out of people who are trying to be trolls. Not to say that person is the troll that's attacking Sterling. Obviously not, because they kept this up, or they missed it. But just that holy God, what, over what? I imagine the insults are flying, but it must have started because the other person, it started with some other person, but it was deleted. Must have started with them spewing some sort of hatred or something at Sterling to get it deleted about his opinion on that sort of thing. But this is the kind of the mentality, is that everybody else are just play strings to me, and it's like, how do you engage that? I assume that it built up to this point because there was probably about 4 or 5 back and forths, but how do you engage a mindset like that? unless you meet them on whatever level that they find interesting, and that is maybe that's not the case. Perhaps they're just, that's how they get when they're being insulted and that sort of thing. I have no idea, but that's kind of chilling in a certain way, because there is nothing of interest other than you will be forgotten. This just, you are worthless. You're a child, and just really, really vindictive, trying to insult somebody. I mean, there's some pretty. And I mean, this isn't even really quote unquote bad for the internet. That's just, you just get this, I guess, a cathartic way of going through it. I have no idea. But seriously, how can you engage a mindset like that at all? If somebody felt that way from just the opinion of a game, like you get with people who are just telling somebody to die because they didn't give the game a perfect 10 out of 10, and it cost it to go from a 97 to a 96, or a 96 to a 97, or something on the Metacritic score, as if that was the be-all, end-all. Last time I checked, have some agency, do your own thing, be you, kind of thing. Do you. And but what in the Sam hell are you supposed to do there? If anything, when you engage the trolls, the moment you engage them, you have lost, because now they turn it into the fun hour. And when you have a mentality like that, what, do you just recede back and just kind of not talk about anything at that point? I mean, that's what just kind of gets to me, is that you just, okay, yeah, you ignore them, but okay, where does that go from there? I mean, it is a very foreign kind of mindset to, I guess, just kind of be that sort of spiteful, or that sort of kind of just be really, really, really. I mean, yeah, you can be dismissive. Dismissive is one thing, but being malicious with your dismissiveness is kind of when it always gets to me when people throw the word condescending around as something that's, trying to be quote unquote high art or something like that. You hear that a lot from take something like something that's grandiose, where it's in the sense of grandiloquent, I should say, not grandiose, but grandiloquent, where they use really, 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 really big words to express and try to color the language and that sort of thing, and then it gets pegged as being condescending. When I wonder sometimes if, quote I really like, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, German philosopher, he said, and it's not Nietzsche, and he said, the limits of my language means the limits of my world. Paraphrasing that means part. But, and I kind of wonder, if in using some of the language, it isn't also because we see some of those things within ourselves, and that's why we become so ardently possessed to start kind of hammering down things. And I think that's part of the reason why, when you say you don't like something, people start to take that as a very a personal attack, because maybe they themselves, because they don't like it, they start to. And I think it's also part of the compartmentalization that we do with our brains, because we just can only handle so much information. So if say you like this movie, then you start to just group people into that little box and stuff, and it isn't because of any sort of it isn't for any other reason other than we are trying to take in all this information. And I wonder if it's just an information overload. Kind of thinking like the information everywhere episode. Hoo-hoo! There's interconnectivity! Ha! So, yeah, so it just, and this kind of leads into the next part. Yay! Sort of, kind of, hopefully. So I'll get into that. Part 3. Calibrated for Presumption. We fly off the rails and color people when we hear their opinions on media, sports, etc. If I say I don't like Earthbound, Ocarina of Time, The Last of Us, NASCAR, baseball, or say I like Winter, pickles, or go beyond something simple like likes and dislikes, what if I say I'm with her, or Make America Great Again? We like to act like we're Sherlock Holmes, able to fill in all the unknowns with definitive assurance. That's not a... We gotta stop that. We must recalibrate our systems. So, yeah, all of that kind of comes to this point here where it's... And I get this. We do this all the time. This is just kind of how we are. Whether it's just because of we are trying to, because we try to take our experiences or the experiences of others and use those as a guide as we go through this life and all that sort of fun stuff. But the moment I say those sorts of things, or somebody else says those sorts of things that you don't know, it's we presume to have figured out everything about that person off of those sorts of things. Take, for example, the Make America Great thing, the whole Trump thing. Like, and this is the same thing with also the I'm with her sort of thing. So it isn't like, one or the other sort of thing. But you had people who became... And I apologize if you don't want to hear like a political portion of this, but it works well with this, is that, if somebody came out and said that they were a Trump supporter, immediately, there's going to be, the people are just going to lead to conclusions and presume to know that person. And that is not, like, the mindset myself. I don't have, and you struggle with it. There's times where, you start to put things in your head to kind of fill in the gaps, and it's like, no, don't do that, because for myself, when I meet somebody, I try to keep it in my mind that before this moment in time, I have not met this person and have, maybe I've clacked chit chat, meeting people through the YouTube, so that sort of thing. Not very often, but it's happened. But I have not met this person, and they have lived a whole life all into their own that I am unaware of. How am I able to then just say with definitive assurance that, because you like A, or because you think like A, I can tell exactly everything about you? That is insanely juvenile. And maybe I'm being dismissive and being hypocritical with saying that for this, but I don't know, like, to be able to definitively tell yourself that you can figure out what is, like, why somebody you've never met until that moment feel the way that they do, that's just what? And so that's the same thing here with games and everything, is that, if I say I don't like Earthbound, and somebody who loves Earthbound immediately is going to be like, what an asshole. Not all the time, of course, I get that, but then, they go into the defensive mode of trying to defend it as if it needs defending. It's a piece of work, piece of art, whatever. It is its own thing. It will speak to its merits to people who like it, and it will, be silent to those who don't like it. I am one of those it is very silent to. But I mean, and it's just kind of how we are, and I get that we're trying to make things simpler. It's it's easier to deal with things when they're simpler. Not necessarily because it's a complex world. We make it overly complex, but I think in our heads we react better when we have it simpler for us, or we think it is this way. Therefore, because we think it is this way and it has made it simpler, we can act accordingly. And that's where you get flying off the rails of that sort of thing. Like, this is the same thing with, I know I'm bringing up a bunch with games and stuff, but this is the same thing with music. I mean, I'm trying to think of something, like, I'm not a big fan of grunge rock or grunge metal or whatever the hell. No thank you. Not my cup of tea. I mean, it's just, there's a couple songs here and there I'll be like, okay, I like, but not a lot. Not a lot. But you know what? I'm not gonna sit there and say somebody's terrible because they like it, or I would hope that somebody wouldn't do the same thing when it came to me, but that happens. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't listen to a lot of like bands and stuff just because I have a hard time hearing the lyrics. Okay, like for example, I like Iron Maiden, and then Iron Maiden's not for everybody, and particularly a lot of the later stuff isn't for everybody. But I mean, it is what it is. That's what appeals to me. But you're going to get they're going to get somebody who's going to say, I don't like Iron Maiden. And you know what? And not to try to make this, not trying to like make it, what's the word I want to use? I know he's maybe listening. Hi, and he knows who he is. But we've had this discussion a lot of times, is that, you like what you like. I'm not going to sit here and rag on you. Tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff, but I'm not going to sit here and question your whatever sanity, tastes or whatever, because you like something I don't. And he's the same way. He's not going to, if you like something else, cool, great, fantastic. That's your thing. And we need more of that mindset. Not even just with games, but just in general. We need people to stop just set to presume to know about things off of just like one little detail. I mean, it's take for example with just YouTube peoples in general. You really have no idea what they're like, all because you get the little bit of a window that they present to you. Take for example the Game Chasers. From everything that I've heard from people, they are very much like the people that they show on their videos, which appeals to a lot of people because then they're like, hey, that's genuine, they're not being fake and that sort of thing, and they like that. I mean, that's like what's his name, Philip DeFranco, I think. I don't really. I listened to him on Joe Rogan's podcast, and then I seen a few of his videos, and he seems like the same person in those. And I think people like that sort of thing. Not seem to like it, but people like that, and they gravitate towards a genuine kind of truthfulness. All the time, no, but that just kind of seems to be the way to push things. There is just being truthful and honest and genuine and stuff. But I mean, a lot of times, particularly maybe in the earlier times, I think a lot of times still with YouTube channels and stuff, like we see these windows of people and then presume that there's no issues, that they are like great, that they enjoy every aspect of it, and that sort of thing. Partially because it just makes things easier. But, I mean, that's... In making it easier, it also seems to have created a whole lot of problems, because this sort of mentality seeps into everything when, seeing as we're calibrated for this presumption, oh well, if you don't like it, that means obviously that you've got some issues with your tastes and all that sort of stuff. Now, taking into consideration that they, like, for example, I don't want to do something too recent. Yeah, I don't want to do something too recent there because I haven't seen it, but I kind of read up on it and it was like, wow, that sounds very similar to something else. But I think that, this kind of comes in with damn, I can't use that. That was a good example too. But well, it's just like I guess like Final Fantasy VII. To a lot of people, that was their very first JRPG, and people loved it and that sort of thing, and that's just kind of how it went. But for people, I don't know, but for some people who had played like other ones before it just didn't really seem to have the same sort of punch. I don't know, but then if you say, hey, not really a big fan of Final Fantasy VII, people start to think you're crazy. And I've lost the thread on that one. But, I mean, yeah, and I kind of wonder if in presuming we also project. And I don't know, it's because, we know ourselves, or maybe we don't. Maybe on a subconscious level we know ourselves, and so when we presume and we project the negative qualities, it's because those are aspects of ourselves we don't like, or could see come into being that we don't like. Maybe maybe there's just the road, the pathway to it and stuff, and so we see that and want to just kind of no. Like, I mean, I know I probably get a bit of a stink eye from people when I say I have no interest in playing something like Senran Kagura. I know that is the case because of some of the reactions I've gotten from people about it. But in the same hand, it's like I have no interest in it, but I'm not going to sit here and say that you're a horrible person because you play him. Play him by all means. I don't care. That's your time, your money. Knock yourself out. But yeah, it's just. But then to say because I have no interest in it that here are all these reasons why you should be playing it or that sort of thing. It's like you don't know anything about me. If you are trying to sell me on this, it is without like any sort of idea of the person I am or the opinions I have. It's just I mean this goes back to other conversations we've had on Rambling Weekly about trying to push something on somebody, even though to me I find it a little bit more greedy to just say, well, you should play this because it's a good game, without any sort of consideration of what the other person has, what the other person has for like interests or anything like that. You just try to push, oh well, I like this game, so you should like this game too, even though it could be basic, like, oh well, they like the genre. But if you just only go that route, it becomes kind of greedy in that regard. So, that is it for this. If you've got any sort of comments, please put them on the YouTube channels or put it on Twitter, #RamblingWeekly, or just directly message me and that sort of fun stuff, and could have back and forth. I'm all for it. So yeah, that is the 3-parter there, and this is going to be a rather lengthy episode. So I'm gonna take a bit of a break, play some Muzaks, and do comments. So stick around. Well, I hope this records alright, because my laptop really sucks at this sort of thing. Jeez. Anywho, Welcome back. The song was called "Opening the Path with These Hands." It's a really good song. The end. Victory theme and that sort of stuff. So let's get into these comments. So we're going to start with last week's episode comments there, and we'll start with Mr. Silver Mongoose Videos, and he put, "Gotta speak with your wallet. I was against the retail exclusive DLC implemented for Hyrule Warriors, so I didn't buy it and told Nintendo why. The game still sold great and sold lots of DLC, but I like to think I did my part. You are right that problems with consumerism often have to do with the consumers. As an example, if people refuse to buy games with screen tearing, then there would be no games with screen tearing, but people are okay with it, in quotes, and therefore the games get made. Happy to enjoy another Rambling Weekly, Taylor." Well, Rambling Weekly, Taylor. Totally I can't read. Thank you, Silver Mongoose. But yeah, and I know I commented to it, but I will vocally put it here a little bit. Is that, yeah, I'm not saying people are bad because they do that, but when you are okay with something, when you have put that this is the threshold from which you will be able to get money from me, then they will be like, okay, well, that's all we're going to do. And I don't think it's a good idea to try to lower the floor to raise the bar, so to say. I mean, that kind of feels like what they're doing in that regard. I mean, that's something I know a lot of people have issues with that don't buy DLCs, because it's like, yeah, I'm not paying for it. Even if other people are paying for it, I'm not going to pay for it. I gave Awakening that chance, because outside of that, I don't think I've ever really paid for DLC for stuff. But I've never really been to the forefront. I know, like, Falcom even has something like really, really cheap things, which kind of makes me like shake my head. There's like DLC to get a bunch of money in the beginning of the game and stuff like that, and I was like, no, don't do that. Or like the DLC for costume changes and stuff like that. It's like, why was that not implemented at first? I could understand if it was seasonal things that would come out later. Say you've got a fighting game, and then, because it just kind of came and passed, and it was released in September, and the game is still active. You put in some costume thing for like St. Paddy's Day or something. I don't know. Like, I still have an issue with that, because it's just put it together and then let it on its own. I grow really, really tired, and this is part of why I think I'm a little less enthused with Trails of Cold Steel, is because it's been going on for so long, and it's like, oh, we got to go back and revisit it. Well, we got to do this to it. Oh, we got to tweak this to it. Oh, we got to add this to it. And it's just like, put it all together and then let it go. Don't try to kind of add things here and there to it and all that sort of stuff. But people like that for some reason. People are all sorts of cool with it and everything. I don't know. I just kind of get to the point where I'm like, ugh. I know I had that bit of that fever for it with Trail stuff, when I would be like, oh, I've got to have the PC version. Oh, I've got to get the Kai version for the PS3 and all that sort of stuff. So I certainly have had that fanaticism for it, but in the same hand, and maybe it's just because of just how many people are interested in it, that it just, you get like 3 people doing it and they're like, but I don't know, it just seems, as you put, Mr. Mongoose there, if people did not like screen tearing, and had the will to not buy a game when they know when they know screen tearing happens, that would stop very quickly, because the companies would see, oh, we've got to be on the ball, because that right there is, that'll cost us. That will hit us in the wallet. So, and that's, that's really about it on that. I mean, yeah. So thank you for the comment. All right, and then we have Kid Koala, and he put, "It's been a long time, Taylor, but it's great to see the Rambling Weekly back and strong as ever." Well, thank you. Where's the quote? Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll have a quote for this one, and I'll bring back the quote because you asked, or at least put it there. I will satiate your thirst for quotes. Yes, but I can't make it through the night without words of wisdom. I don't know if, at least they're not my words of wisdom. They're just words of wisdom. Words of wisdom that I like. So, DLC doesn't bother me. I don't really buy it either, and that is perfectly fine. If it doesn't bother you, and and if you like it, I mean, if you don't really care for it, it doesn't really. I mean, that's fine too. But I mean, if you like it and you buy it, have fun with that. But normally I play through a game, and then move on to the next. Also, to my knowledge, no DLC has ever really added anything super important to a story or to a gameplay. And I think I brought it up with him. I could have swore there was something in the last batch of DLC and stuff in Awakening that put in a little more nuance for something in the story and stuff like that. And that's... I think there's probably a few other examples of it. I think there's actually a really big example of that, but I can't think of the game. Where they, like, wasn't it one of the Tales of Xillia 2 or something? Where one of the DLC, maybe I'm wrong on that, but wasn't it a Tales game or something where there was a DLC to get the true ending of something? Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Bizarria. Then I'm thinking, I could have swore it was a Tales game, but they did that, and that people threw a fit about that. But when companies overstep that bound, okay, they catch the sheer wind of anger from our generation, from this group of people, these fans. But what if they try that, with a different group of fans, or 4 or 5 years later? Maybe people will be all right with that, and by that point, people will be like, well, and I know I mentioned in the previous episode of, oh, well, I don't like the game. What, did you beat it? I don't have to beat a game to know I don't like it. You don't have to sit through the whole fucking movie to know if you don't like something. You don't have to read all the book if you don't like the book. Why are you trying to like, a book can take anywhere from like 8 to 15 hours to read, especially if it's a really, really big one. But I mean, okay, that's not anywhere near the 60 to 80 to 100 plus hours it could take to get everything in a game to know definitively if I don't like it or if I do. No, not happening. Don't like it, you don't like it. That is fine. I am not the arbiter of what is why if you don't have to explain to me why you don't or do like something. That's all on you. You don't have to, yeah. I am not the arbiter to tell you whether or not your opinions on something are definitively okay and whatnot. Anywho, okay, so I don't really feel the need to pay it. With that being said, I can totally see why Nintendo is following in the footsteps of Sony and Microsoft. Their mindset is probably as follow: if the competing company is doing it and making money, why not us? Exactly. Majora's Mask is the best Zelda game, hands down. If you want to fight me or fight about it, I'm ready to go. I really like Majora's Mask. I like the melancholy of I can't even think of what the hell the town is. I honestly have not played the game since 64 days, but I love it. That's how much I love that game. I don't have the 3DS version. I would like to play that sometime, but I mean, it's just a. I think I mentioned it before, the Theophanies. I think that's the guy's name, who did the remixes and stuff, and he was really smart about putting it out on the day before, or a couple days before, or like the day of the Mayan apocalypse sort of thing. and really smart about it, and just slam boom, and it's just fantastic remix. Yeah, he put out another one a couple years ago, and that one's enjoyable. I haven't quite had as much of an immersion with it, but part of it was also when I heard when I was listening to the first one, I was also kind of walking by myself outside, so maybe I should do that sometime. So, and then he also put here, Final Fantasy 15 is trash, aka there's a bag here, so I'm guessing basket with nowhere to go. Maybe I don't know what that little image is supposed to be, but yeah. I'm not a fan of 15, and yeah, nope. Let me just leave it at that. And then yeah, I mentioned about Awakening kind of having something similar, and he's like, that's crazy, the DLC for Fire Emblem Awakening added so much. I don't know if it added really that much. I think it might have just been a little bit of a tinge tweak to it or something. I could be wrong about it, but I never paid for it, and nor will I ever, because I refuse to buy the game again. That's right, I sold that game. As much as I love Fire Emblem, I sold Awakening and didn't even buy Fates because that's because I have no interest in supporting that style of Fire Emblem game whatsoever. Sorry, not a fan of the waifus. 3D is much better than 2D. Just saying. He also put, all I recall about the game is I didn't really care for it a whole lot. The story was a joke and the gameplay was way too easy. Yeah, I really felt that the story was garbage, and everybody who says that they're emotionally attached to a certain character when something happens, I felt like, and this is going back to an earlier Rambling Weekly episode about emotional weight and carrying it. I felt that the game made you carry that, because I surely didn't feel it. I was just kind of like, okay, alright, okay, have fun with that. And that happens a lot in games, because it's just kind of like, you're also trying to push through to get to to do the things and all that sort of stuff. But boy shucks howdy, I was not impressed. The Mad King dude, he was a dude, like, people got really into it. They're totally allowed to get into it. I did not get into it at all, and I just don't see where people thought that these characters were that interesting. I honestly don't see it. The gameplay, I thought it was easier because it did the couple pairing, but I did like that they did some different stuff with that. So you had the unit pairing, which, not the couple pairing, but the unit pairing where you're putting two units together. The only thing that it did was it made it like a really, really beefy character, and it worked when it's like, oh well, if you put it to super, super difficult. But in the same hand, it's kind of like, even on a normal, a strat game should still be, you should still have to think a little bit more, and you really didn't have to do that in this one. And that was a complaint that I didn't really get much feedback on, is that it's like you've got the area, and then you just kind of go through and take care of the bad guys and stuff, and there's not really much thought you have to do with it or anything. And I mean, as much as people rail on Thracia, yeah, that game forces you to lean very heavily on characters, pray that they get really, really good boosts, or like level up stat boosts and stuff, and lots of prayer that they don't die in the process. I mean, it's just that is a oof. But yeah, so thank you for the comments on that. Silver Mongoose Videos did comment on previous episode 21st, the info everywhere. One of the comments was lovely outro, by the way. The other comment was no good deed never goes unpunished, rule of acquisition 285. And thank you. I don't know why you have that quoted and why that was said, to be honest. So if you do hear this, and if you could point to me why that was mentioned, maybe I did say it in there and I've just kind of forgotten about it or what. But I would totally love to get a rules of acquisition book. Or the Ferengi as a kid I really didn't care for them, but as I've grown older, not that I like they're my spirit animals or anything like that, but more of I've grown to appreciate that they're more than just obnoxious. Because as a kid I thought they were really obnoxious. I was like, I don't like them. The Ferengi are just kind of obnoxious. But as I've gotten older, come to appreciate them a little bit more. Plus, I've also come to appreciate Deep Space Nine a whole lot more as I've gotten older. As a kid, I really kind of didn't see the appeal of it, but it with Next Generation are my tops. They're so good, so good. Unlike the movies. Oh yeah, I went there. Burn. And then BK McGlynn was kind enough to give me some Twitter comment, and then he put, couldn't agree with you more about DLC. When you get down to it, it's all about the money. Money. But yes, that's right. Agree with me. Ha 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 ha. He had another comment, but I can't kind of dig it up. It had to do with something. See if I can find it. It's always good that he has a banner of trails in the sky. That's right. Good job. Oh, yeah. This doesn't seem like it's a smart idea, since this was a little bit ago. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't just be digging through somebody's Twitter on recording. That would be wrong. But I'm trying to think of what it was, because we had a little bit of a back and forth there. So yeah, apologies there, BK McGlynn, that I didn't get that other one in there. I just remembered it after I read that. Derp. But yeah, so if you have any sort of comments and whatnot, they will be read and kind of interacted here. So we're going to take another bit of a break, and I'm going to scrounge up a quote, because I didn't do that. I had an idea for stuff, and I'm like, I'll do something different for the time being, and I'll save the other thing for a little bit later. So let's take a break and wrap this beast up. Welcome back. That there was the song Game of Blades, and I'm terrible at that game. It's just so terrible at that game. It's going to be a long kind of quote here, and it is from Book 9, Part 42 of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, or the Emperor's Handbook, as it's sometimes known as. And it's about a page long, so bear with me, but I think this does well to kind of fit in how to tie the whole discussion thing and how you should try to react, I guess. Whenever you are offended at someone's lack of shame, you should immediately ask yourself, so is it possible for there to be no shameless people in the world? It is not possible. Do not then ask for the impossible. This person is just one of the shameless, inevitably existing in the world. Have the same thought ready for the rogue, the traitor, every sort of offender. The recognition that this class of people must necessarily exist will immediately make you kinder to them as individuals. Another useful thought of direct application is the proper particular virtue nature has given us to counter a particular wrong. Gentleness is given as the antidote to cruelty, and other qualities to meet other offenses. In general, you can always re-educate one who has lost his way, and anyone who does wrong has missed his proper aim and gone astray. And what harm have you suffered? You will find that none of these who excite your anger has done anything capable of affecting your mind for the worse, and it is only in your mind that damage or harm can be done to you. They have no other existence. Anyway, where is the harm or surprise in the ignorant behaving as the ignorant do? Think about it. Should you not rather blame yourself for not anticipating that this man would make this error? Your reason gave you the resource to reckon this mistake likely from this man, yet you forgot, and are now surprised that he went wrong. Above all, when you complain of disloyalty or ingratitude, turn inward on yourself. The fault is clearly your own. If you trusted that a man of that character would keep his trust, or if you conferred a favor without making it an end in itself, your very action its own and complete reward. What more do you want, man, from a kind act? It is not enough that you have done something consonant with your own nature. Do you now put a price on it? As if the eye demanded a return for seeing, or the feet for walking. Just as these were made for a particular purpose, and fulfill their proper nature by acting in accordance with their own constitution, so man was made to do good. And whenever he does something good, or otherwise contributory to the common interest, he has done what he was designed for, and inherits his own. Whew! But, I think it fits well with this whole discussion thing, is that, it is unreasonable, it is impossible to demand people to act how you want them to, and it just, because that's human nature. People are going to do what they want to do, and you shouldn't be taken back by that, or I like in this discussion, I really shouldn't be pulling my hair out trying to understand it. It's just kind of people how they are. I mean, it may kind of frighten me that the way they go about it, and if that they push that sort of thing of just being other people's, they are just marionettes for their entertainment. That's a little frightening and kind of disturbing in that regard. But that's kind of how some people are. It sounds kind of I know this word gets thrown around a bit, but it sounds kind of like a psychopathic sort of mentality. Not like evil necessarily, but just kind of but yeah, you just gotta do good. Be the good. Whew. But so that is that. Always enjoy reading that, and I highly implore anybody interested in philosophy, or just interested in just maybe finding something to calm the spirit, for lack of a better word. It's a good read, and Stoicism is a very, for lack of a better word to borrow from somebody else, very tough kind of, not like difficult, but just kind of rough, rugged sort of thing. So mindset to try to keep with and follow and that sort of thing. So we all fall off the wagon with that. But yeah, that is it. Thank you for listening and all that sort of fun stuff. If you want comments or message me on the Twitters at Muragaru553, Muragaru 553, or put a hashtag Rambling Weekly, and then I'll see it and be like, hey, I know that. So that is it. The song we're playing out to is called Tie a Link of Arcus, and yeah, it's one of the different, there's a bunch of different battle themes that pop up in both Sen 1 and 2, and they're good. So enjoy, and enjoy your week. Take it easy.